Good day, Becky. How the heck are you?
Hi, Rylan. How are you?
I'm swell. I'm swell. And real pumped to have you on here. We're going to have some fun with this today. Now, I don't do a big formal introduction because I love it when the individual can just tell their story from themselves. So why don't you tell the people who you are and how you got to be what you're doing now today?
Okay. I'm Becky Kiado, and I'm the founder of Leveling Up Midlife, where I help women who are over 40 basically lose fat and gain muscle without starvation or obsession in the gym. I'm a certified nutrition coach and trainer, but I think my best credential is that I lived it. So I lost 60 pounds during my perimenopause to menopause transition, yay me, and built muscle. And now I help women do it for themselves without the overwhelm and the desperation that I felt when I went through my transformation journey.
Overwhelm and desperation. It's real key words to describe what people are going through in this fitness industry right now. It's so difficult to actually sustain it, to get long-term results. So I really love that wording. Let's dive a little deeper here because I love to know what introduced you to it. Where did you initially start? Like when it comes to fitness and nutrition, like what was the beginning of that journey for you?
Wow. Well, so nutrition and fitness have always been in and out of my life. But when I became a mom, my life just shifted. And then all of a sudden I did what my parents did and what most people do, where they put their kids first. And you sort of lose sight of your own goals and what becomes important to you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. So you're saying your parents, like losing goals, right? Losing the sight of the goals kind of thing, right?
Yeah, so basically I went through the process of gaining weight. I gained about 80 pounds with my first son, had a lot of health issues and couldn't take it off. Then I had my second son. I waited until I had forgotten how difficult that was, and then I decided 7 years later, hey, now that we don't have baby gear, we don't remember how difficult it is. Let's do that again. So did that again, had another son, and at that point I was desperate to lose the weight. And so I tried everything. I tried every diet, every single diet out there. I tried it. Every workout program, I tried it. The 8-week challenges, anything that would pop up, I would try. And I was never truly successful with them. Never really got the results I was looking for. And that's where I did like the 2-a-day HIIT workouts, where I'd work out an hour at a time, twice a day for 7 days a week until my elbows and my knees were bruised. I still can't do a plank jack to save my life. It makes me actually nauseous just like thinking about it. But at that point, I realized I didn't have the formula. I was doing something wrong. And so I decided to learn the mechanisms behind weight loss so that I could teach myself to do it properly. So that's when I got certified. And that's when I started to learn, okay, what really is metabolism? What is building muscle? Why is that important? Why do I need to be in a calorie deficit? And what I really learned is that it's all sort of synergistic. And I didn't understand that before. You sort of need to have it all to really be successful. It's when you are doing like one thing at a time, just trying to burn calories or just trying to lose fat or only focused on the scale, that you become less successful. And so as I went through my journey, then it sort of became a passion project for me so that I could help other women become unstuck.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's usually how most of us get in this industry. I think the best ones do, because you come from that empathetic side of view of like, I've been there, I've struggled, and I've been with you. I've done the 2-a-days, I've suffered. We're going to dive into that. I want to dive into the psychology a little bit from motherhood, because you have great insight there. And I think it's valuable for mothers or people women who want to become mothers, or even parents in general. How did you manage to balance out? Because like that's what happens after pregnancy, is like you now have kids, you now have someone else you have to care about, you put yourself back. How did you manage still prioritizing yourself and still feeling like, hey, I'm still being a great mom?
Yeah, I didn't do that very well. I was actually horrible at it. And a lot of that, I think, was because that's what my parents modeled. My parents were both, they're very loving, very hardworking, very self-sacrificing. And because of that, they said they put everyone else before themselves and put themselves last. And so I thought that was the right way to go. And it wasn't until I got through it and they were a little older and I realized what a horrible quality of life they have. Both my parents are obese. My mother can't get anywhere without a walker. Both my parents have struggled to get in and out of the car. I mean, there's a lot of issues just living for them, a lot of pain, less mobility, just poor quality of life. And I didn't want that for myself. And I knew how I felt as someone who loves them, that I don't want that for them. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to take care of myself for my kids, which is not how I looked at it originally, but how I look at it now. And you know that what is the phrase where put your oxygen mask on first before you help other people? Yeah. You know, that's where that value sort of became very clear to me, because I could see it in the way that my parents lived their lives and just what a poor quality of life overall they had. And so that, I think, really sort of gave me the fire to really change the way I was looking at being a mother and health in general.
It's so important. That's the way people look at it. And I love that you're saying that. It's like, this isn't just for me. This is for them. And that should be the thing that feels the most. I always tell people to compare it to, like, the movie scenes in torture, where you'll watch it too yourself, and you'll be like, someone's getting tortured, the main character. It's like, tell us where the rebel base is. And you're like, no, you're not going to tell them, you're going to tell them. And then they threaten a loved one. And you're like, oh yeah, I'd fucking give up right away. So we have no problem torturing ourselves, or the idea of experiencing torture in that main character, we're fine with it. But we know if it was our loved one that they're about to, I'd fucking give up the rebel base. I would. Yeah. And that's what we do when it comes to our health. But then if you translate that to the hard work is the torture, going and showing up for, the training and all that stuff, the nutrition, do all that work, that is the torture that you go through for your kids. I think the hard, juggling there is then time. Like, what is the right amount of time that it doesn't have to, like, try to not frame it as being selfish, but being as a bit selfless, because, hey, this is hard stuff I have to do, so I'm better for you. And that's a really difficult thing for parents and mothers to really juggle out. I'm curious about your transition on that. So I'm certain, because I've heard people talk about this all the time. Like, I know people close to me who was like, oh yeah, I don't want to end up like my mother, and was like, but they're still not doing it. Like, they're still not making that act. So did you have like an aha moment, aha day, or was it gradual over time that helped you make these changes?
Well, I would say it was gradual, but I also had I don't know if you call it a benefit, but I watched my parents go through the medical issues that they went through. My mom's in and out of the hospital, and they struggle with daily life, like things that should be easy for everyday people, for them are hard. And I look at that and I think, I don't want that, and I don't want my kids to deal with that. So it's not even that it was a little bit at a time so much as I kind of got smacked upside the head and I said, it's my responsibility. I can't do this. Like, it is my responsibility to take care of myself so that I can be there for my kids and I can engage and take part in the things that keeps us a family, versus always having to sit on the sidelines or not able to go because I can't fit in an airplane seat, or whatever the situation is, or I need to be close to a hospital. I mean, those things really sort of narrow your ability to bond with your family when you have all these conditions in order to live a healthy quality of life. And, I would anticipate that my kids will be all over the place and I'll have to fly and I'll have to travel to them. And I need to be in the kind of shape to do that, because I want to do that. I want to be there. And so that's kind of what motivates me, I think.
For sure. And you said something very explicit there about getting smacked upside the head. So it sounds like there was more of an impact moment. And I'm curious because it's a very important stage for people to recognize is the pre-contemplation, contemplation, and action phases, right? So like, I think a lot of people sit in contemplation. A lot of people sit there. Some people are pre-contemplation, meaning they're not even considering it. But you were clearly like, I'm willing to bet the person that you were thinking about it throughout both pregnancies. And then what was the action incentive? Because like the first day you start going to the gym, what made the action apparent to you?
Well, I think I saw my mom and myself.
Do you remember specifically like a day, or it started happening more and more and more?
I think, you know, we would talk on the phone, and the things that she would say would be the things that I would start to talk to her about. Oh, I'm feeling a pain here. Oh, my back is twinging all the time, or I'm out of breath when I walk, or, you know, it's just all of that. And I started to think, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm transitioning into this. And I love my mom. My parents are the best, but I don't want that quality of life.
Right.
You know? So I want to be independent. I want to have my agency, and I needed my control. And I feel like they have given their control over. And so for me, it was seeing that parallel, and I could see that I was on that track.
Totally. And like you say, it sounds like it was relatively accumulative, but it was becoming more and more apparent. And I just like pointing these things out because I always say people have to search for their epiphany. No one knows what your rock bottom is. It's going to be different for everyone. Everyone's going to have different points. Some people hit it earlier, some people hit it later. And unfortunately, some people wait for a fucking heart attack. Yeah. And you don't want to be that position, or people literally don't try. So I'd be interested in this from a depiction standpoint, because I think it's a valuable discussion. What do you think is so different with that generation that they aren't trying? And I think because my parents are the same, hardworking people, heavily disciplined. You know, I'm not sure if you're at the last Q&A, but Jordan said something so specific to discipline, and he said discipline and resilience is very specific to the event. And I never heard someone say it like that, and it makes so much sense because I do have many people that I love and I know that are hard workers, very hardworking in their discipline, my dad being one of them, but not at all in training or nutrition. And he even pointed out, like Jordan said, doing cold baths does not make you a harder, more resilient person. It makes you better at cold baths. And so when you have to have this resilience or this acceptance, what do you think the previous generation are really missing when it comes to having to make that change? Is it an old dog, new tricks? Is it getting stuck in habits? I'd just love to hear your theoretical standpoint on this.
Some of it, I think, is they didn't see it as a priority like we did. I think that in general, things have shifted. So when they were our age, people were healthier. There wasn't all this ultra processed food. There wasn't all this access to some of the things that there are now. And so I don't know that they see that the way we see that. So I think some of it is a dynamic as far as, I don't know, a social dynamic. I think that definitely prioritization. I mean, I think they were more, you work hard at your job and that's hard work. And kind of built into who you are, maybe not so much like, I think they saw it as an activity. Versus
like an option.
Versus this is what you do to make your life better. An option. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah. It's kind of like I could do more reading and research on something, maybe. May or may not help me. Maybe it makes me smarter. I could do like crosswords or something. I don't really have to. But I also feel like what you mentioned is all true. Priority is the biggest thing. But then I think I always want to dig deeper on that priority list, on the perception of what makes the priorities different. And it's so apparent to you and I that the priority is there. It makes you better at your job, makes you better at life. You don't have to walk around with a walker. And it's literally never too late to do some difference.
Yep.
But for them, they don't buy into that. And so it's not a priority. And so I've believed that it's the belief system. It's the assumption phase. So I always frame it up for people like this. And I told my dad this too. And I said, I feel like I'm talking to you about a religion, that you don't believe in this false God at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm coming from a cult. And I'm like, come in, try the food, try this out. You'll feel better. This is the way to enlightenment. And it feels like none of it's going to work. You go to do a workout, it fucking sucks. Well, I don't get to have my barbecue sauce on my chicken now. I don't get to have drinks every night. Fuck it. How do you like this? And then I asked my dad, I'm like, hey, do you hear people complain about being healthy? Do you hear them saying, I fucking hate this healthy lifestyle, but I do it? There's certain things, don't be wrong, but 90% of it, you're like, man, I feel better. This is rewarding. It's all worth it. And so I always believe that we need to allow people to just appreciate the hard start. Like, it's that first 3 to 6 months of being able to accept the buy-in and the assumption phase, because science works. We know weight loss works over the course of a period of time in just the right range. Strength training will make you stronger, but you have to keep showing up for it. Like, all these things work, but the experience of it initially is like, this is a fucking terrible idea. Why would I buy into this? And so I believe that the priority is a part of it, but there's also just, why would you prioritize it? It feels terrible.
Well, and the time thing that you brought up is a big issue too, right? Like, they can't see the end road. And so it just feels like Groundhog Day. And they don't see the payoff. And they're like, I'm getting up and I'm doing this over and over again. It's a waste of my time. And some of that is the whole marketing and all of that that we've bought into, that there's some sort of a quick fix, 8-week solution that we all know is that the real solution is the boring, basic shit that you have to do day in and day out in order to get there, and it takes time. And that's actually the sexy answer, and they don't want to hear that. You know, they want the secret. And
yeah. The best sentiment I heard very long time ago at boxing gym, and it was just overheard someone talking about the 10 secrets of fit people that unfit people don't know. And number one secret is no secrets. Like, the number one secret is no secrets. Like, it is as plain and simple. You know, it's come down to there has been some iterations that make things more efficient, you know, like 10 years ago, I was like, oh, you have to have 6 meals a day. Like, I was in that camp, and there was
Right.
research to support it for muscle, like, recovery. Like, it seemed like you needed to. People made sense when it looked at almost controlling the blood sugars. Later on, we realized, yeah, research changes, and we can make it more efficient. You don't have to worry about that.
Right.
And I do think, like, we're going through a good time now that it's becoming more and more and more and more apparent for people that deficit's the key, right? That just strength training and deficit's the key. And I feel like the charlatans and you know, these people who are making things up are going to have a harder and harder time disproving that, because more and more research is coming out. And it's now, how can you find an efficient deficit? You know, maybe fasting is a key for some people, as long as it doesn't trigger some binge eating behaviors, right? There's always psychology to go into it. But I feel like I've seen, because unfortunately it's a saturated market for content, but at the same time, it's at least more information is coming out that deficit is the key. I had a conversation with a client from years ago who was someone who would go on keto and off keto and all these things, and I tried to get her to just track calories and stuff. And she had come up to me and was like, you know, I'm really starting to see this on social media. You know what I'm seeing? And I thought she was going to say keto, or I thought she was going to say fasting, actually. I thought she was going to say fasting. And she's like, a calorie deficit. And I'm like, oh my God,
And you're like,
yes. Yeah. So the information's getting through. Like, we're getting to it. This is good. This is a cultural shift. And so I'm curious where we're going to be in 2 to 3 years from now, right? Because if people just start appreciating that's what it is, then we know what the work is, right? It's just creating that awareness. Have you seen that on social media yourself?
Yeah, and you know, I think too, kind of going from your story, or I think what's going to really help is the AI, and the fact that people can do some, if they know how to work the prompts well, they can fact check a little bit and see, is it really a calorie deficit? Is it really carnivore? That's the miracle here. What is it that I actually need? And so they're able to do a little bit of research. Again, assuming that they know how to work the prompts or whatever, but that will give them less influencer information and more real science-backed information, which, let's face it, that's where it is. But that's not necessarily the sexy marketing stuff that people see, and that's the difference. You know, they play these things over and over and over again, V-Shred or whatever it is, and people get they start to think that this is actually the way to do it because I see it all the time. It's just like visibility to it, and then they don't understand why they're failing.
Totally. And we're not out of the woods yet. Like, I think we're good. I'm going to say 10 years from now, it'll be a massively different world, which is an easy thing to say, but it's like, I think it'll be far more open knowledge to appreciate deficits, protein, strength training. Like, man, like 10 years ago, even when I was like in high school, it was weird if you were training, right? And then now it's like everyone's doing deadlifts and squats. People who shouldn't be doing them are doing them, which is like, good for you guys. Like, get on that journey, right? And so people are becoming interested. It's not weird to strength train. You're not just an athlete or a bodybuilder. So we're seeing that cultural shift. You're still going to have that issue with social media currently, where the things at the opposite of what most people are saying are going to get, you know, likes, shares, and all that.
Sure.
But again, more and more this disapproval. I love that you pointed out AI, and one of the best prompts I recommend people use is always make sure you search. If you have a question, it's like, hey, is this true? You got to first ask, can you look up any peer-reviewed research articles? Don't say articles. Don't say research. Look up peer-reviewed research articles, because if you don't say those first two words, you can get anyone's bullshit claim of a website article. A website article is not an actual piece of evidence. They just talk shit. And I've had someone on my social media try to say, I think it was either Diet Pops, no, it might have been protein bars or something like that. And I was just like, hey, do you have any peer-reviewed research articles that you can point me to? And she linked me to try to debate me, and she linked me to just some bullshit article. And I was like, okay, this is an article. Can you source peer-reviewed research that shows me conclusively something in a randomized control trial that this is unhealthy? And she had nothing. She didn't even know the difference.
You're giving me someone's opinion. This is great, but this is someone's opinion of protein bars. I want to know, what is the science-backed, proven information behind protein bars? Like, there's a difference.
And what's funny is she has a much bigger audience than me. I'm willing to bet she's working with a lot more people than me. And it's just like, you know, that kind of gap in the system where you have someone who is very scientifically backed and then someone who is just more vibes. You know, she's a fit girl. She goes, and it's also a really, this is the other, I think this is the new movement in social media, or as far as like diet trends go, because there's been, you know, the keto era. I think veganism actually had a really big push not long after that. And then there's been fasting and carnivore kind of came in around the same time, and right before around that time too, paleo. People on paleo would also do fasting anyways. Now I'm seeing that it's kind of, they don't call it paleo, but there's the naturalists. It's the people who are really pushing against seed oils, food dyes, anything preservative, organic, and it's like of all of them, I actually have the least beef with it, other than like, I just wish people could recognize that they're creating still barriers for people to create guilt, to create this idea that like, hey, a low-calorie salad dressing, just because you're saying, oh, look at all the ingredients. Like I was suggesting a high-protein yogurt, and I was like, hey, this high-protein yogurt, no one's talking about it. It's not even a Greek yogurt. It actually tastes better. And she's like, yeah, but you can't, you know, pronunciate the chemicals in it. And I'm like,
all the chemicals in it. Yeah. And
so I did, like, you've probably seen it, the classic, look at the chemicals in a banana. I actually listed all the chemicals in a banana and said, this is a banana. Is it healthy to eat? Because if you want to know what fruit's made of, it's chemicals. Everything's made of chemicals.
Everything has chemicals in it. Everything.
And I just think people need to recognize the only real issue that I think is immediate alarming that comes to processed food when you're trying to buy processed food isn't whether or not it's going to kill you, because obesity will kill you. Cardiovascular disease will for sure kill you. Whatever they're pushing on, like, oh, this is cancerous, all this stuff. It's like, I have the belief in the FDA that they're probably not at the doses you're having. And if you don't digest it well, you have an argument. Have something a bit more homemade, because some of these emulsifiers or sweeteners can actually produce some gas or something like that. But if you digest it fine and you're eating fewer calories, just don't fucking worry about it. And so the thing is, with this whole organics vibe, makes people feel so comfortable to think it's healthier, and it could be creating more barriers in the long run. And so I feel like
the whole science thing too, like they've proven that the pesticides and stuff that they use on the organic food is actually worse for you. Yeah, so it's like, you get this skewed answer and people just don't really understand the whole picture. They sort of fact pick and then or cherry pick the information, and then it's like, yeah, that one thing, but you have to look at it in totality in order to understand how healthy or unhealthy it is. Like it just doesn't make sense when you compare it to the statistics of, say, obesity. Like it's just not apples to apples.
It's totally true. I'm glad you brought up the organics and pesticides. Like, I had someone on here, Melissa, she's from the group, and she actually literally works for a chemical company, and she's very aware. If you're organic, you use more pesticides because of the fact that the natural, quote unquote natural, are harsher. They actually do more damage. And so you have to spray less more often. So they're not healthier, they're not lower risk, but they use the term organic. And this is literally a statement, you probably heard of this, from the guy who started the organic brand, was to build trust with the buyer, but it is no way reflection of nutritional value or quality. It literally says it in the statement. And so people think, like, even the people in this naturalist space, they're like, oh, but get the organic, get the grass-fed beef. I'm like, why are we getting the grass-fed beef? It's more expensive. Oh, there's high omega-3. Buy like 4 or 5%, and beef has shit omega-3. You have one dose. You get more omega-3 in omega-3 eggs. Like, if you want to say increase your omega-3 content, get the eggs. You get like significantly more just from supplementing it or from having other ways, and you're going to add more cost to the buyer. You're making it a higher barrier, right? So this is
organic
one of the ones.
Vegetables, grass-fed beef, all of that stuff. The price keeps increasing. And then how do you get in all the protein you need if it costs twice as much? I mean, it doesn't
100%.
really make sense.
What's another trend recently, and it could be one we mentioned, like what annoys you the most? I'd be really curious.
I don't know about a nutrition trend, but I think looking back on my life, one of the most annoying things are just it's unlearning all the bad information I was taught through this kind of stuff. Like in the 80s, it was fat-free. That was big, right? Everything was fat-free, like Snackwell's cookies. I would eat a sleeve of Snackwell's cookies. It was 11 billion calories, but hey, it was fat-free, Rylan. So I was good. Or burning off the calories, or I'm a woman, so I shouldn't get in the gym because I'll get bulky. It was relearning all that shit that just isn't true. But there is generations of sort of handing down this information and saying this is right, and we perpetuated it to people for so long that they are convinced it is truth, it is law. And that's the part I think that has been the most frustrating, is to take women who have learned that fat-free is the way you do it, or I'm a woman and so I only eat 1,200 calories, that's it. And teaching them, no, like you're not fueling your body. You want to work out in the gym, you need fuel. You need protein. You need fiber. You need things to actually push that weight. But they have a lifetime of bad information, bad marketing, bad habits. And when I say women, I include myself. I mean, I was the same. And the only way that I learned it is by becoming a nutrition coach and really learning the mechanisms and understanding the science, back to the science, behind what makes a weight loss journey actually effective. And instead of wasting my time and my energy on fat-free or whatever, cabbage soup diet, paleo, whatever it was, right? Like, but, years of that, yeah.
It's so valuable for people just to appreciate that it's normal to go through these things, but you end up on the other side still confused, right? You end up wasting that energy. And the one that I think, like you had mentioned with the cabbage diet, I had a client ask me about that, I think like last year. And it blew me away because I never heard of it. And then I looked it up and I'm like, literally just eat what? Just cabbage?
It was big in my day. We were all on the cabbage soup diet. It was ridiculous.
How long ago was that?
I think that was 80s.
So, okay, that makes sense because like when she had said it, I'm like, this is a recent thing? Like I remember my dad had a grapefruit diet.
Yes, grapefruit diet was in there too. Yes.
Yeah, just coffee and grapefruits.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, yeah, that's one way. And I mean, again, we all make these mistakes to try to find that easier path. And it just doesn't seem apparent to us that it's just going to be hard work of consistency. And like the one thing that the overarching theme of eat less, move more is truthful but not useful. Right? So that's where you end up in the 1,200 calories. It's where you hear all these things. And I know I'm so bought in, you're probably similar to myself, where it's like tracking calories. Like it makes it accurate. Track your protein, makes it accurate. But most people are so afraid of that tracking mindset and still not clear of what that all looks like. So these other options, they seem like less accountability or less restriction in some sense. Yeah. It's like a different form of restriction. You know, Lane Norton always says you got to find your own restriction. Like he's not against keto or any of these things, but like fasting, it just literally is a way to create a calorie deficit without focusing so much on the meticulous tracking. And I think, you know, as a tracker, it doesn't feel meticulous when you get good at it. It feels meticulous for people who are new to it because you're pulling out a phone before you eat. And that initially sounds at the start. And then eventually you don't even need to pull out your phone because you know what it is. It's an education process, right?
Right. It's all about accountability and awareness. I think it's the awareness that's the key, that people they make a lot of assumptions in the beginning. And until you really start to track it, you think you're eating 1,200 calories and you're like, holy shit, I'm eating 2,000 calories because you really don't know what a portion size looks like. You just assume. Right. And then that's where the aha moments kind of come in, I think, for people that do track. But you're right. The calorie deficit, too, you're right. It doesn't matter. Like, they're all right. All those ways are right. It really is whatever fits into your life the best and what you're going to do.
Man, I even heard Sam Solik say it the other day that he does intermittent fasting some days. And I was like, yeah. Like, I mean, I used to do it before. I did it before a bodybuilding show for the first almost 3 months up to it. And it was just because I didn't think of food in the morning. I had coffees and it was good. And then I started eating and it was like, I felt fuller. I felt this was easy because my meals felt full when my appetite became an issue. And the one thing why I'm a bit more biased on the calorie tracking, I mean, I have my reasons just because it worked for me, but also it's super important for people to realize that eat less, move more. That's where you end up with those big discrepancies, because then the term eat less becomes only like appreciated when you're starving, and if you're not tracking, you can hardly eat. You can be at less than 1,200 calories. I have clients routinely where I tell them their calories and I see these women reporting 1,000 calories. Like, that's not enough. You cannot do that. Like, that's why we want to walk that line between a little bit hungry is a good thing, but like, just because you can almost get bought into now it's working. And I think if people don't track, if they feel hungry, then it's working. And if you're not tracking the protein, then it's really not good, because then you're going to be atrophying your muscle. And so it's super valuable for people. Like, we're trying to get you to walk the line, not blow by the line, and then do a bunch of extra training after, right? So I'd love to know your experience on that. Let's dive into the 2-a-days, probably not eating a lot of calories. What was the routine you did and how did you get out of it?
Oh my God, Rylan, I was such an ass. So I was. I really was in that mental frame of I had to earn my food. I was heavier than I wanted to be, and I thought the only way to get through it was to punish my way into submission. That's where I was. Not the healthiest mindset for sure. But so my answer to that was I downloaded an app, Freeletics, I think it was. I don't remember. But it was all body weight, all HIIT. and I would do an hour of HIIT twice a day, 7 days a week. And I would try to eat as little as possible. I mean, I was literally like licking lettuce leaves and
licking?
Not really, but I mean,
okay.
I mean,
eating lettuce, yeah.
Eating lettuce, eating, small servings of fruit. Everything was really as small as I could make it, and protein shakes. And that was it. And I thought that was sustainable. And, my body started breaking down. I started bruising all the time. I was sick. I'd get headaches. I'd have to sit down because I felt lightheaded. I was wrecking myself, and all in the name of, lower calorie. And I would fast too. And I think, that's why I would sort of trade that, I'd have coffee for breakfast. And then I didn't understand that. I thought because I was eating less calories, I was doing the right thing versus getting in enough protein to make sure that I wasn't breaking down my muscles. I just didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that there's a big difference between being fueled and doing HIIT workouts and trying to do them, just eating an apple and having a coffee all day. So it's not always necessarily that the lower calorie is actually the winner, as it is fueling for the workout or the function you're trying to do. That was a hard lesson.
I've been there. You'd use the word desperation, and I mean, I've been there too. Like, it's desperation, you value it, you're trying to get in shape, and that's who my heart bleeds for the most, the people who are really trying. Because there are so many people who are overweight and they're trying really hard. I know I'm wrong with this assumption to some degree, but I see it routinely where you see someone who's like, especially in the spring, and I should make this assumption every time, but every time I see someone who's very overweight going for a jog, like very overweight, I'm like, I hope you just like running. Because if you're doing that for the sake of weight loss, I just wish you knew it could be easier. Yeah. And it's like, if you do like running, then you're probably at least efficient enough at it where it's not hard on your joints. And then when I did the first marathon, like a full marathon, it was super interesting to see the body composition types, because you had very tiny, small, lean people. And then as it went farther in the pack, just people were more overweight, and they were crushing me. They were killing me in the runs because they're really efficient at running. Yeah. But like, if you are trying to use running as the gate to be able to sustain weight loss, unless that's now a hobby for you, it's one of the most detrimental. And you say like the 2-a-days, and you had said desperate. It's like, I know that feeling. I felt that too. Felt like I got to do this cardio first thing in the morning. Now, I was doing weights. Go do weights. Okay, I got time to do more cardio. I always felt like I was working towards something. Now, I'll also say that because I was trying to be a trainer, I always felt the need to be a fit trainer. So it felt like it was almost like a responsibility of my job. Sure. Years later, I think it was like a couple years ago, I heard a quote from my old mentor and friend, and he said, the quickest way to burn 100 or 500 calories is not to eat it. And it's just like, when you start to just like realize that it's just so much unnecessary work if you're not just at the right calorie amount, you realize how much you could save time, save effort, and how these HIIT workouts is beating you up. That was really interesting to hear about the bruising. And this is what people need to value about the quality of food is like, it makes sense that you could bruise more. You probably could be more anemic. You could have less iron. You could have like way less nutrients in the food, especially protein shakes don't have a ton of nutrients. They just have protein, right? So you're missing out on so much. And I think this is really important for people to appreciate about HIIT workouts. How about this? I have my rant on HIIT workouts. I want you to rant first because you got a history for them. What's your value on HIIT workouts?
I like them. I don't think that they're bad. I think they're a useful tool. I was not using them properly. I was using them kind of in that 80s mentality. Let me earn my food. Let me burn as many calories as I can. And I wasn't thinking about the fact that I needed a fuel in order to do these workouts. I just, it didn't make sense. And I was in that whole like 75 hard mentality, where everything was as hard as it can be, go as hard as you can, balls to the wall. You either do it or you're you quit, you give up, you start again, whatever. I was making it so much harder than it needed to be. Back to like your running example where you see people run and you think, wow, you don't have to 75 hard it to get there. There's an easier path for you. But that's what people think. They think they have to abuse themselves, or many people think that. And I think that's where people get tripped up, and a lot of people don't want to start. They don't want to begin because they're like, I don't want to do that. That's crazy. And it is. It's crazy the way I was doing it. I needed a trainer. I needed a Rylan.
I think I do believe people when they start their journey, they should really get a trainer. But I just even say, get someone to do it with. That could be someone who is in shape and does it with you. That could be group classes. The reason why I was saying about the HIIT, like you said it great, it's like it's a tool. Like it's a tool for high intensity interval training. It's a tool for high intensity cardio work. But that can't be your lifestyle. That cannot be something you do. Your system will not adapt to that. And I always try to describe HIIT as being aerobic-like action with strength-like intensity. And if you're doing strength-like intensity, you're really doing a true high-intensity workout, just like doing your squat day or your leg day or your push day, you need a fucking rest after. You can't do that more than once or twice a week if your system's going to actually adapt. And so the best thing that you can get from HIIT workout is high, better aerobic capacity. And I'll always also say is like most of these are group classes. Like I have a client that does it once or twice a week, and we've made sure we know that you're only doing this for the sake of the group and aerobic fitness. Like you cannot overdo this. This is not, she knows it's not solving the problem, but I support that environment because I've been part of that environment. I've run those environments, but you cannot allow that to be everything. Right. And I think that's where, as you mentioned, the value in the trainer will make sure that you're not just doing the HIIT workouts. You're not just doing these group workouts that don't consider your recovery. They don't consider longevity in this whole equation. And I think more people do need to appreciate the value of that. And
the balance, and that there's no magic.
Yeah, totally. And you said 75 hard. How do you feel about 75 hard?
I'm not a fan.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, not a fan. I think it's great for mental toughness. If that's what you're trying to train, if you're trying to train, that sort of tenacious, stick to it mindset shift, sure. But if your goal is fitness and health, then I think it's the wrong way to go about it. I just think it's way harder. Health is already harder for most people. I don't think we need to add to that and make it more complicated and more difficult for people.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on it. I think it's terrible for most people. And I say most people very explicitly because you mentioned something very valuable is like, it's like if you want it as a mindset challenge, that's different. And I've had a client who literally, like, he was a boxer, he's now in the military, he thrives for those things, right?
Yeah.
And it's like 2 workouts a day, all this stuff, cold showers. I'm like, that's kind of your cup of tea. And I would be a fucking hypocrite to say I didn't do something similar. I had my own challenges. And those challenges taught me a lot about just valuing the process of doing something hard. My first version of the 75 hard was actually miles from minutes to Mexico. And so it was a cardio challenge because I was going to Mexico City, I was going to Mexico with my buddy for a trip. And I was like, okay. And I just created a challenge. And this was actually inspired from my own clients that had their own fitness points challenge thing they were doing. They started with like doing plank challenge, all this stuff. They created a 1,000,000 point challenge called the $1 Million Baby. And so I'm like, I'm going to do my own. And I said miles and minutes to Mexico, how many miles it was from Winnipeg City where I live to Mexico. And I'm going to do that in cardio. Now, it actually averaged out not to be like from bodybuilding standards, not that crazy. It was like maybe 40 to 45 minutes a day of cardio. But trying to, for the first time, plus my training, plus working in life and stuff, trying to continuously accumulate that was really difficult. But it got me in great shape. And the value I have from that was like, hey, I could do something. I could do a challenge. I could do something that, like, I have these minutes. I had to track them. I
can stick to it. I can
stick to it. And I looked for reasons for activity. Okay, I'm going to bike here. I'm going to go do this hockey game, and I'll accumulate my minutes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to join my group today and do a little cardio. So it did force me to do things I otherwise wouldn't. So this is why, like, I actually like challenges. The 75 hard, as you said, I think more explicitly should be for people who just need that kind of mental challenge and have fucking time, because oh my God, you need time to fit that all in. But if you're an everyday person, what I recommend is you create your own 75 hard. That is just hard enough, but it will teach you something in the process of it. Like, what is the goal after? What do you want to do after? Like, do you plan on doing cold showers every day? Do you plan on doing 2 workouts a day? Probably not. So I used to do like basically minute walking challenges for my clients. Like, how many minutes of walking can you add up to do every day and have value for? And they were actually, because this was before they were even doing step counters, like a step count challenge is a really good one. Because then it creates this habit that after they can take with them. And I found that they were way more bought into, hey, I'm going to go for a walk, because they started to see these minutes accumulate, and this like, okay, I couldn't do it here, but I'm going to do it here. And so I think challenges are super valuable for people, because you learn a lot about the process of showing up to do something for a long period of time and being proud of the result. And the end result of fitness comes from that, right?
Well, and you said too, challenging yourself, right? So you start off with a goal, and then you have a stretch goal. But that sort of, what I don't like about 75 hard is, okay, you failed, now start again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that sends the wrong tone, because you didn't fail, and life is going to get in the way. And I think a better tool is, okay, how did you overcome it?
Yeah.
Not that you failed and you start again. Like, I think it's the wrong message.
Totally. That's why my challenges were always constructed around the total quantity. And if you had a busy day, you make up for it. So some days I would only have less. Some days I'd back up. I'd do more, and you can compensate. And I mean, that's more life.
That's real world.
Yeah.
That's real life. You know, you have to adjust around challenges. You're going to get thrown curveballs all the time. You can't stop your life and restart it. You have to just drive around the hole.
Around. You know? And there's like, I mean, I have a client, literally one of my best weight loss clients ever. She's gone from like 190 pounds down to like 145. She's still, her goal is going to 130, and she has not stopped. And she has 2 days a week where she can only just get over 3,000 steps. She's like, there's nothing I can do. I'm too busy. But then you know what she does is she does 12,000, 15,000. She like makes up for it. And I don't even tell her to. She just does. And so, yeah, you don't have to be 10,000 steps every day or even 8,000. Like, there's times where life is going to prioritize. So it's important that your context, your challenge is something that's going to teach you in the process. But I also think like
it's in your life. It makes sense.
Yeah. And there's a huge value of the courage to commit. Like, I think even when I first did that initial challenge, and then I was doing so many of them, that's even what led me into doing my first bodybuilding and all these things. Because the courage to commit to that is scary. To be like, hey, can I set out to do these? I have to tell people I'm doing it. I made my own challenge. I have to tell people. And then I had to, once I told someone, I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so I did multiple other ones over the years, different challenges. And it was super gratifying. That's what led me to do bodybuilding and all this stuff, really tough stuff. But that's why I think challenges are good. As you mentioned, the 75 hard has too much of an unrealistic standard for people to be able to be successful. So, you know,
if someone goes in and they have a lot of weight to lose. I can see it being debilitating in a way, you know, like kind of crushes them. And it's like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be that hard.
No, make it uncomfortable for you, but not unrealistic.
Just a challenge, not, you know, I love the word challenge. You know, the other thing too is a realistic time frame. You know, like, okay, a lot of challenges are short, quick blips, and it's like, hey, if you're 10 minutes from your goal, great, you'll get there. If you have a lot of weight to lose, then that's not a realistic timeline. And to kind of level set that too, so that someone's expectation is not, they leave and they're like, oh, I failed. No, you didn't. You need more time. You need more time to get there. You've got a longer road, same road, just longer, you know, to be on it.
And people really feel when they have a lot of weight to lose, or when so many people feel this need to change, when they finally feel that aha moment, I have to change. I always say it's like you're trying to grab the wheels on like a highway and you're going fucking 60 miles per hour and you yank the wheel. That's going to roll the fucking car. That's going to roll. And that's exactly what happens to your identity. You're like, I need big change. I need to shock the system. People love that word, shock the system. You need to change things up. It's like, that literally tells you it's not you, it's shocking you. And
Right.
progressive overload is progressively making it part of you. And if
Right.
you
It's
think,
in the name, people.
yeah, and if you think about it, although it's boring, if you were to pull the wheel over by just 5 degrees, you turn the wheel like that, and you have the same momentum, you'll notice that car is turning, and it will do a full 180 if you give it time.
And it'll be comfortable, and you won't be in a wreck.
And that's like you essentially slowly accumulating all the right habits at the right time. And, you know, I always say it's like you got to realize how long is. And the ability to endure is actually the thing that's going to be success or failure for most people. And the other analogy I use is like, if you want to really go somewheres, don't try to be a rocket going straight up in the air. Put yourself like 5 or 10 degrees off the ground and be willing to endure that, and you're going to get out of this world. You'll be a completely different person. But trying to go straight up, you're going to come right back down. It's almost a guarantee of gravity. All your habits are gravity. That's how it's going to happen, right? You know, I have a challenging question for you, because this is a topic I'm really interested in, especially from the last Q&A we had there around GLP-1s. And I'm going to ask more trainers this, because I don't know how I sit on it. I think they're great for people, by the way. I'm not against them in any way. I think this is a new weight loss revolution. As we mentioned, this is what makes the deficit so apparent. This is why it's not working. Like, nothing's worked better, right? And we're going to have these weight loss drugs get better. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard from semaglutide or semaglutide. It's going to be retatrutide, which is the next phase, which is looking like it has even better results and less side effects. Do you see yourself ever needing to use it if they become more ubiquitous? Like, more people are using them. Like, I'm saying like 10 years down the road, I think we're going to see way more people use them. Yeah. And as a trainer and nutrition coach, I'm asking myself this every day, because I do have food noise. I've always had food noise, and I just manage it. And so I'm curious about your perception. How would you think you would approach that?
That's a good question. I'm not anti GLP-1 at all. Maybe that's because my parents were obese. I have a very different perspective on it. Like, I feel like that any tool like that will help someone become healthy is worth it. When you weigh you counterweigh what can happen if you don't. Would I take them if I got to that point? Sure. If I felt like I needed it. I wouldn't take it because I needed to lose 5 or 10 pounds. I mean, it'd have to be something that I felt like was worth the trade-off. But I don't think that they are bad. I don't think they're cheating. I don't think that it's something that we should be anti. You know, to me, it's the same as someone who wants to lift weights to retain muscle. It's a tool, and if you need it, you need it. And you still need to be respectful of it being a tool. You still need to ensure that you're eating your protein. You still need to make sure that you're retaining muscle and lifting weights so you don't look like a wet noodle when you're done. But yeah, I would use it if I felt like that I needed it, or if I felt, I mean, I have clients on them, and they've had a lot of success. There's some downsides for sure. You know, there can be a lot of side effects, a lot of stomach, like gastrointestinal type stuff. But if someone can tolerate that and they feel like it benefits them and it gets them out of obesity, yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, especially out of obesity. You know, I know, again, too many hardworking people that are in their discipline, fucking hard workers. And I've even worked with people who follow the meal plan. Like, they'll follow the meal plan. They just can't follow it long enough. And they do the strength training routinely, always showing up for strength training, always following the meal plan-ish. But because that sustainable deficit is so fucking hard, when you have kids, you got a busy job, you got all these things, all these stressors, it's like they start seeing the weight loss and then they plateau. And even like all of the things are in line. Like, you're eating the right food, you're doing the right training, you're doing the right things. It's just to sustain that, especially when you have a long-term weight loss, like, you got to go. And one thing I do recommend people think about more often is, if you have more than 10 or 20 pounds you plan on losing, even more than 10, I would consider doing that in 2 spurts. You should always look at fat loss phases, not fat loss years. Now, if you have 80 pounds or so to go, you might not need a break for a while. Maybe that's 6 months. But diet breaks I've seen be so effective for long-term weight loss, and you can break that up. But even still, like, it's just so hard because then you got to not put on weight and live life. And we're in this new environment, hyperpalatable foods and a high stress environment. And it's like, yeah, it's a really easy coping mechanism. I suppose my mindset is just like, because it's so new still, and in the next like 10 years or so, like it's going to become so much more routine,
more mainstream.
Like and I'm actually going to be like, I'm excited to see, because I think we will, as they get better, we're going to see us kind of start to fight the obesity epidemic more. Like, it's going to work. I think it's going to work. It's not going to be for everyone, because I think people will always have this discomfort around pharmaceuticals. But I think a huge percent of the population, then that, of course, comes with the issues of, well, make sure you eat enough protein, because if you just eat junk food on these things, you're going to be very unhealthy and sick if you're not strength training, all these things. So there's still a health concern around them. But
and then peptides too in general, like they're even on weight loss. Like the more you learn about it, like what is it, BPC 157? Yeah, like there's almost a medical application, I think, that is going to, I think they're going to blend them at some point. I think it's going to end up being a part of our medical system because of what they can do.
I totally agree. Yeah. I suppose like this is where Jordan's perspective, because he did his own experiment with it. And I mean, he wasn't a super overweight guy, but he says all his blood markers got better. And the thing that that spoke to me, I'm not sure if you're a food noise person, but I am. Always have been, because I grew up a chubby kid. And so even like yesterday, and I've been doing a light deficit just for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, man, that would be nice not to think of it right now. Yeah. And so I won't know until a day comes where I feel comfortable with the pharmaceutical not having any side effects, because I don't have to. I'm actually in that range. I definitely don't have to. But I'm like 10 years from now, I'm just going to keep asking trainers, like, what would it take for you to feel like it's okay? And I know right now, for sure, I just want to connect to my clients more. Like, that's actually probably, I know I don't need it. I know I would think of more things. I know I could be more present. Like last night, it hit me because Jordan was talking about this, how you could just be present with the kid and not think of food. I came home from a day with my girl, and we got to see the dogs. Dogs super excited to see you. So those are like our kids, right? And they wanted to see you so bad. And the first thing I want to do is eat. And I'm like, that would be that food noise. And so like I still believe that I'm for sure a disciplined person. I'm putting discipline in other realms of my life, and I have the capacity. I'm actually even grateful I went through the deficits, the bodybuilding shows, all those things, because I have that skill now. But I do perceive it'll come a day where we trust the pharmaceuticals substantially, and we can just stop thinking about it. I just think that there's a chance for it. So I would be curious if you had that depiction at all, or if it's come across your mind.
Yeah, one thing I have been interested in is the all the microdosing protocols. Because a lot of the side effects and things that they talk about seems to come from those really large, from the drug companies, where they seem to be almost so large that people get sick or whatever. And I think, is it too much? Is that the problem? Like, do we even need that much? And there was a podcast with, I think it was Mind Pump, and they had someone on there that discussed microdosing. And I thought, now that's interesting. And that tied with like the other information and things that we're learning about peptides like BPC 157. To me, that feels like they can pull that in and incorporate that into some of the obesity protocols and stuff that they have, and really help those people that, to your point, have that food noise. It's just genetic. They're born with it, right? And allow them to have some relief and be able to become healthier versions of themselves. And I'm looking forward to that day, because there's people that I think need it. And I feel like that, to your point, we're going to be a healthier society.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree. I think it'll be interesting to see that's like, it'll rock the world. I heard the guy really discuss this on a podcast. It's going to rock the world like smartphones. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be super impactful in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think, especially with AI, drugs are only going to get better, and they're going to understand it better because we're talking about peptides, and so this is actually helping the body use itself a little bit more inherently, right?
Yeah,
So
heal itself.
yeah, yeah.
All of those things. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of wins in there when they get more information. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Now, I got to know before, this has been a great combo. Love having you on here, Becky. It's a great chat, a lot of good banter. I got to know, though, one last question, and it just, what is your most recent ambition? And it could be work, life, fitness, anything.
I think my most recent ambition is my current clients. This really is a passion project for me. I want to see women sort of see the other side and take their control back. And so every woman that works with me, I want this to be the last weight loss journey they are ever on. So the diet industry in general, it's sort of profits off of our frustration. I know I've been there. They're selling you the fixes or the systems. And I feel like they don't necessarily want you to succeed. They want you to subscribe.
Ah.
And I don't want that. I want to teach people the logistics of weight loss. And then, like we talked about, the food psychology. What are those behaviors that sort of got you there in the first place? Because if you don't unlearn those, then even if you have the logistics down, that weight loss isn't sticky. It's not going to stay. And so I want to teach women those things so that they can live their lives and not need me and have that agency back.
That's a beautiful thing. I love how you say that. The logistics being sticky. I thought that was a really good terminology. It's like things have to stick. Things have to actually be with you. That's the goal. It's the goal to just keep doing the thing. You eventually should be independent. And I actually think at most what people should probably need or might want, I don't even need, but some people might just not want to think about the strength training. And I get that. But nutritionally, I think you got to take care of yourself, because that's like almost like taking care of your own bank account. Like eventually you got to budget for yourself.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, because you have to, like, you're the one that's always going to be doing that, and there's far more personal value and routine and structure that a coach can't be responsible for. But I could help you be responsible for the 30 minutes to an hour you're in the gym, because that doesn't have to be environmental, cultural, psychological, and emotional. You can have elements of that in there, but it does not have to ruin your life, and it could be just, it's contained. But nutrition is just you. It has to be a part of who you are, and you should take that responsibility and have that independence long term. I always encourage it. Yeah, it's a life skill. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Very well said, Becky. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here. I'm certain we're going to be reaching out in the future to have another one, because this is a great chat. So thank you so much for coming on today.
I loved it. I had a really good time. Thank you.
Thanks again, Becky. Really fun chat. That absolutely flowed back and forth. We were on the same page for so many of these thoughts, and she had some great insight. I just love that topic of someone coming from losing like so much weight from pregnancy, from being a mom of kids and prioritizing other things. And it's so difficult to make that change. That's why I was really trying to dig in. And I always try to give people this information of understanding what goes from contemplation to action, and what makes the action sustainable, what makes it different, because so many people are stuck between the contemplation and action phase. And just so you know, this is from the trans-theoretical model of change, behavior change. And this is very well known in a lot of the fitness industry. There's pre-contemplation, there's contemplation. So pre-contemplation is like, you don't care about fitness. And then contemplation is like, I'm thinking about it. I might go here, I might go there. Like, I kind of want to do it. And a lot of us end up there. And then the action phase. And it's super important that that action is effective. Then there's maintenance, and there's even a concept of relapse. And you have to understand that it throws you back down. And we want to be able to understand this behavior change model over a long period of time. And for people do you need an epiphany? Does it have to happen over a long period of time? And I have my own kind of theoretical basis for this, in that I think it tends to accumulate on people, because it's so hard to just say one day I'm going to go. And some people will have that moment, but I don't believe it was one moment of impact. I believe that it was many moments that add up over time. Some people, many moments add up over time. And it's very, okay, I'm going to go. And from what she described, it sounded like it was discussion after discussion. And my analogy, you may or may not have heard before, is the gunpowder of change for your life. So if you imagine, gunpowder can accumulate in you. And that's like little trauma. And we can have this in like an injury, for example. You got a little twinge in your knee or your ankle. So a little, oh yeah, it kind of hurts. It's not bad. Our body can adapt. We can adapt very well. We're very adaptable creatures. Psychology does this. And so you put on a little weight, you see it in the mirror, yeah. And you adapt. You put on a little bit more weight, you adapt. And you get used to seeing yourself that way. Even though you don't like it, you even get used to not liking it. And so these things end up adding up. It's like a little speck of gunpowder that's adding up into a pile. And then one day you have something that hits a spark, boom, that gunpowder goes. And you're like, I gotta fucking change. And I really always bring this up because people need that gunpowder ignitement. You need that moment of change. And I just recommend people look for it. You're going to know when it's in you and it's just in your stomach. You're like, I got to fucking change. I got to take action now. And I got to just go do something in that. And it's very difficult to start, especially when you're obese and you might not realize it's going to work because you see it not work for so many people. There's a discussion I've had with my dad. He's like, I don't want to, don't want to fail. It's like, well, failing is to just not even try. So it's only when you say, I'm going to admit being an overweight person the rest of my life and live a shorter life, that's true failure. Everything else is just an attempt. It's just simply trial and error, right? Use a different term for it. It's an attempt and it's an experiment. Maybe that word experiment is a better term because experimentation inherently has to have failure in it in order to find the path. And so taking that risk of trying something, and the other major issue we talked about, and this is, within the former generations, but anyone who does not stick to the path long enough, does not stick to their training long enough, does not stick to their nutrition long enough, it's the priority and the perception around that priority. So what Becky had said, it's believing it's priority. And what I believe, it goes along with the perception that it's worth the priority. It's worth doing the hard work. And I said this in the last episode, with Cameron, it's like, I just want people to know it gets better. I just want more people to realize that once you get over that hump, give yourself 3 to 6 months, you get better at these things. And then 6 months, if you can turn 6 months into a year of living healthier, things get so much better. You feel healthier. And over time, you just start to value eating healthy. Because when you just eat out and you're like, oh man, I feel worse now. And then when you don't train, I feel worse now. So I was like, okay, maybe that priority in that time, the extra 20 minutes to prep my lunch actually was worth it. Maybe that extra, even if I just go for a walk, was worth it because I felt mentally healthier in the morning when I went for that walk. Even though it's hard for me to prioritize that extra hour at the gym when I have so many things going on, I just feel like my joints are a little bit better. And so you start to recognize only once you've achieved the point of benefit that all the training and nutrition is worth it. And I believe most of those initial gains for people to experience the benefit have to be somewhere around the 3 to 6 month mark of a good training and nutrition program. Because you can do it poorly, is you could go into the overworked, kind of structure that Becky was talking about, doing the HIIT workouts, doing just anything, doing any cardio off of any program, any YouTube workout. One of the things I probably mentioned it before is like the most valuable thing a trainer can provide you is a filter. It's a filter of unnecessary information and save you time and effort. The most important thing to a trainer should be do no harm and not hurt you in the process. It's like the high priority of like training shouldn't result in injury, but like that's still do no harm. That's like and that's a health model from that for doctors, right? And it should go the same with your training and nutrition coach, because I want you to feel good in the process of doing something hard. Like it's going to be hard, but I don't want it to be harder than it needs to be. And this is why it's so valuable for people to prevent the overworking. You hear these messages of like no pain, no gain, all that stuff. It's like, yes, get uncomfortable at the start. That's where it begins. But I really recommend you get some help to get started if you're trying to get started. I really recommend you get some structure, you get some guidance, you get support. And even if you at least have that to start, and then after that, I really recommend you don't do it alone in some way. That could be you have a training partner that you just routinely go to the gym with. It's a friend, maybe they're doing their own thing, you're doing your own thing. Maybe you have a partner that you're doing a nutrition challenge with. It's like they can do their own program, they can do their own nutrition, but it's like, hey, I'm just going to hold accountability with you. And it certainly helps, whether it doesn't have to be me. Like I am actually never upset when someone's, messaging me online and I just, ask them how their nutrition's going and they say, hey, I actually have a coach. I'm like, that's great news. I am far more comfortable with someone having a coach than not having a coach and just trying to sift through social media information because it's hard to know what it is the right noise. Now, luckily, as we mentioned, me and Becky, that more people are understanding calorie deficit is the real thing. You need protein, you need strength train. It's becoming far more normalized and appreciated. And I think we're going to be on the precipice of a much healthier population in 5 to 10 years. But if you want to get ahead of the curve here, you got work to do. There's no skipping that. And I think that's my biggest issue with the naturalist. This new kind of movement to me is what I call the naturalist. Kind of fits in with paleo. They don't frame themselves up as being paleo. It tends to be more literally naturopaths talking about it. And I do find value with naturopaths. I'll keep that separate. But like the amount of like just more barriers to entry is, as I mentioned, is what bothers me. Natural food versus, what is healthy, right? And it's like, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's healthy. Arsenic is natural. There's even like a cashew. I'm pretty sure it's cashew. There's certain nuts that you have to cook, otherwise they're toxic. And so we can't just confuse natural being healthier. And I'm sorry that I do believe right now where it stands that I trust the FDA for most of what we're consuming, because it shouldn't be like you need to eat 99% ultra processed food. But if you have some processed food, as I mentioned, a salad dressing, you happen to like certain foods, whey protein is an ultra processed food. And where it currently stands for the amount that you're consuming these foods, you should have more whole foods anyways. But for the amount that you're having the in between the gaps, I think the processed food is fine as long as it's hitting the right protein calories at the end of the day. We still need fruits and vegetables. Those should be whole foods. I try to get people to see healthy food on a spectrum. You might have heard me talk about it, and I'm always going to bring it up because I think it's very helpful if you haven't heard it. And it is understanding that you have A, B, C, D, and F foods. And so that's seeing food on a spectrum, because food is not healthy or unhealthy. It is mostly dictated based on the behaviors around them. And even then, health is something kind of like hot or cold. There's more health to a food or there's less health in a food. Because heat itself is the entity that you're measuring when you're describing hot or cold. Cold isn't a thing. It's the absence of heat. And so the absence of healthy value to a food is what we're really judging. And there's things that can have more vitamins and minerals and pros to eating it and less. And even then, it's inherent on the quantity that you're consuming it to make it a health result, right? So when you think about what would be an A food, would be fruits and vegetables. It would be leaner proteins, things that are like, if you eat these foods, you have an A chance of being healthy. It's not guaranteed, but it's a pretty hard time over consuming apples, oranges, leafy greens, even carrots. Like, you could overconsume them. It's not impossible. Just the probability lies within you probably feeling satiated, and you're also getting a lot of micronutrients from these foods as well. So they come with both micro and macronutrients. B foods have a little bit more processing, or it slightly lowers the chance that you're going to eat the right amount. I consider B and C foods kind of mixed, where depending on the person, you can see it wherever you kind of want to market. So for me, I would say like mixed nuts. I actually kind of call a B2C food because they're just slightly processed, usually cooked in some way. It is kind of a whole food, but they're very calorie dense. And I say I have to balance them to be a B. And so I got to caution them. Otherwise, it's a C. Because if I have too many nuts, which is like a handful of nuts, very easy to consume 400 calories for me, especially if they're salted, if it's mixed. Don't even get me started on fucking trail mix with fucking M&Ms. That is just so easy to eat. And only recently have I started to be able to eat nuts one or two at a time. I thought you had to eat it by a handful and a mouthful to get the full experience. So to me, that's where I classify it. And I've worked with other clients on this, and they'll say, oh, cheese is a seafood for me because I have to be cautious around it. Or nut butter for me is absolutely a seafood. It doesn't mean it's low quality. It's that the probability of me eating the right amount of it is low. So I have to caution it. That's what C is for to me. Then there's also considering just the degrees of food processing, which has less nutrients in it, or possibility of more food sensitivity. So I would consider whole grains, like whole wheat bread, whole wheat pastas. They're more calorie dense, and you got to make sure that you digest it well. And I think I digest it pretty well, but if I had a lot of it, I might not digest it as well. So I usually put it in that category, but it still comes with fiber and there is still some nutrients in them. Then the D foods, that's where all the treat foods go. That's where white bread goes. That's where foods that have mostly basically just calories, just carbs or fats, right? So you got to look at, like I say, white bread, I wouldn't even say white rice because white rice is a little bit harder to overconsume for most people. So that's closer to a B to an A food. I'd call it a B because it's easily digested by most people. But then just things that you think you're likely going to overconsume with little to no nutrients, basically no nutrients, even desserts, all that stuff. And there's a reason why I don't consider it an F. And I debated someone on this recently. And he had said how he considered a pizza an F. And I said, is it really an F? Because it doesn't actually kill you. It just provides calories. Now, you can make it an F by eating too much pizza, then it's no longer good for your health. But if you had a piece of pizza, along with everything else adding up, mostly A foods, and you have the right protein calories in the end of the day, that's not causing a failure to your health. F would be a failure, it'd be dragging your GPA down to 0 if you had a GPA, right? Grade point average. And so your grade point average of 4, 3, 2, 1, D's would be 1, like it's dragging that GPA down. But then he had a counterpoint and he said, well, what if you have lactose intolerance? Then it's fucking F because it's toxic for that person. F should be reserved for anything that is toxic to a person, like alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin. We can still fit F's in there, but the amount that you can fit F's in and still be healthy is pretty realistic to, alcohol fitting in there and still having a good grade point average, right? So that's a way to kind of look at it. And I do really get frustrated with the organic con, like with this natural food, whole food, because again, more barriers and identity that people are trying to team up with and discussing it with clients where they're like, we didn't eat this 1,000 years ago. It's like, you didn't eat fucking half the food you 1,000 years ago. You didn't drive. You didn't have shoes. We can't just always go to 1,000 years ago and say we're meant to eat certain things, because if you continue to create barriers on already a difficult problem, then you're just going off vibes. Now, with this being said, as I did mention this, I think in the podcast episode, I have probably less issues with it in terms of it is mostly healthy eating, like saying that don't eat seed oils. Well, you're going to eliminate a lot of processed food. And if you say you got to, eat whole foods, you're going to eat organic fruits and vegetables, you're going to eat grass-fed beef, and that's what you're doing. You're going to end up net healthy. I don't see a negative health outcome from most of these things. I just see it being harder for people to attain. Whereas I have a bigger issue with people using fasting, multiple day fasts. Like intermittent fasting, I think is just a window timing eating, right? I think that works fine for a lot of people, but multiple day fasting, I see a high probability of people who have a hard time with their weight ending up with more binge eating issues. I don't see that being sustainable. And I'm going on probability here. Keto, I see being very restrictive. If the person knows they're going to do it the rest of their life because they already have comfort, okay. But like, I see less barrier, or sorry, I see a bigger spectrum with the whole food and a lot of benefit to it. But I just always want people to recognize that you're creating unnecessary barriers. I even see people who are very big into it slowly bring down those barriers. A naturopath I know who, she was very, very oriented around this is the way, and now she brings it down. She has some fun, and it's like, I understand that there's value to it, and I think on the evidence-based side, it's hard for this messaging to get clear because we end up arguing for ultra processed foods. But really what we're trying to do is like, yes, you should be eating the whole food. Organic, I think, is a con. I think that's vibes, but you should be eating mostly whole foods. And then we're arguing over seed oils. I'm like, this is such a dumb argument because it's like, what is this doing for people? How does this help people? I don't want to have to argue for canola oil because like, if you make a salad dressing with canola oil, that's fine. If something that you're reading has canola oil in it, it's just not a big deal. You should still be eating olive oil. You should still have avocado oil if you can afford those things. But if you're not, it's also okay. It's also not the end of the world. And, you know, I'm even seeing some people who are so big into it. This one guy I actually had, he was so against it. I had done a real kind of arguing him against how he hates the big cookie brand in the States. And he would basically go to crumble cookie and he would go and he would try to convince people not to eat it. And I'm like, dude, that's not cool. Let people make their own choice. You're in the States. He went up to people, was like, here, I want you to have $100 and shop healthy. I get that. And he actually then did, I want to buy olive oil for you. This canola oil isn't good. I'm like, okay, that's unnecessary. But he was going to buy it for the person. I'm like, okay. But I just think like it's not necessary. Then I seen recently, he basically was convinced that canola oil is not a big deal because there's just no research to prove it. And I think it's when we're stepping over $100 bills to pick up dimes. It's just not a big issue. And so many people are not paying attention to just what's already a difficult problem. So that's where I don't know how we do it from people who, like myself and probably Becky, that are more evidence-based approach on nutrition, how we get proper messaging where we're not trying to seem like we're pairing up with ultra processed food. That's not the goal. We're just trying to get you to pay attention to the right part. So you know, the people on that natural side will be, oh, I don't track calories. It's because you put a ton of other restrictions on yourself. So it sounds like they're superior to it. By the way, that's an expensive way of life, right? So, and just to kind of touch on quickly on the high intensity interval training, I loved it. She had sent me this stuff. She showed me straight up photos of bruises that she had. I didn't even consider that, like how that could happen. And then she explained her diet. I'm like, oh man, you might have been like anemic. Like you could have just not been recovering. Health would be so poor in that state. And basically, just so people understand, I want to elaborate on it. Like high intensity interval training is great training for your aerobic system, but that's like showing up to do a squat day. You don't need to do it. You shouldn't do it every day. It's hard to even do after squat day if you're going hard enough. So you do a really high intensity interval for anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds and take double to triple to quadruple the rest. This is strength like intensity for an aerobic like action. And let's say you're even just doing the classes, and honestly, those classes are not structured very well, but you like the environment and it pushes you hard. I always encourage people, go light weights, push hard, have fun, but get recovery. Like just make sure, because I do think group environment is fucking awesome. I mean, that's what boxing was for me. And I did TTF back in the day. That was my boot camp. And we did high intensity interval training. We did some that were fucking overtraining. Absolutely. But it was fun. So trying to have the right mix. So make sure you know, okay, if I'm doing the HIIT training, I'm not doing anything intense tomorrow. And try not to do it more than twice a week. And don't feel like it's just because you burn more calories. The calories are so insignificant to the big picture. I'll go back to the quote from AJ. Best way to burn 100 calories, don't eat them. And with that being said, we're not trying to get you to just not eat. You want to have that sweet zone, as we mentioned, not too few calories, not too many calories, just walk the line. And that's a hard thing to do already. And I want to hit on how it's so valuable to appreciate challenges as a whole, not to feel like you're required to do something big and great like other people, because people will brag about these big extreme things. Just try to have a more modest goal, but it's good to be uncomfortable. Like challenges, like we talk about the 75 hard. Even the guy who, Alec Irvine, he's been on this podcast, boxer, now in the military, loves fucking crazy things. He even had a hard time sustaining it. And so it's not just because it's this big thing people are doing, it doesn't mean that you owe yourself it. The big changes is not the goal, but a challenge is a good goal. So what could be uncomfortable and what could be a bigger goal, like a bigger, longer stretch goal, something that stretches you, maybe 2 to 3 months. And I always encourage, look at a big volume thing that can make you really excited about it. I'll tell you a little story about the $1 Million Baby if you haven't heard about it on this podcast before. I've talked about it before, but it's been a while since I mentioned it. What my clients had done they were focused fitness clients, and they loved like the squat challenge. They loved the plank challenges and all these things. And wanted to come up with something big. And they were like, how about the $1 Million Baby? These two women drinking a glass of wine, and they're just like, yeah, let's do that. And so every workout will be points. And they just try to predict what they could do. So many points for weight equaling reps, and they do it for legs, for certain like a hip movement, or for shoulders, for arms, for core, for cardio, for jump rope. They chose their own challenges. So they each had their own book. It was well organized, and they did it over the course of a year. And they just slowly accumulated. And they were always like, after, like, oh, wow, I was like way off on this. This was really easy. This is going to be really hard. And what was super cool, and I know the experience, was the look on her face when she was almost done. She's like, I'm going to be done tomorrow. And there was so much pride. You could see that she was on the edge of the cliff that she had climbed. And there was just so much pride and satisfaction there. But also, like, kind of not having that challenge after feels weird. And so I had that exact same experience after my last bodybuilding show, because this is a big thing for me to be able to work really hard, not fuck around like I really did on the first one. Worked hard on the first one, but I didn't do the posing, and I didn't know what I knew at that point. So I'm like, I'm doing everything I can to actually win. Like, I'm showing up to win. And I'm normally not a super competitive person, but I did. And I got it. I accomplished it. And that feeling of accomplishment, of being on top of the mountain, is incredible. Now, it does leave you with like this idea of what else can I do? But that's the good part. The good part is being on the top of the mountain. You're like, man, I'm done climbing. And it's like both satisfied and also unsatisfied, because now you have to do another one, but super empowering. And that's how I felt about the points challenge when I used to do those points challenges. I did that. I did a 300 sprints. No, 300 minutes of sprints to look like the movie 300. I think it was something like that. And I was doing a weight loss challenge with a client of mine. So we were both doing body composition assessment, body fat percentage. And I basically said I had to do 10 sprints a day, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, for 30 days. So I think it adds up to 300 minutes. And so it was, some days I didn't get all 10. So I would do 12 on one day, and then I would do 8 on another. I would do like, oh man, I only got 4 on me today. And then I did some more on another day. And so yeah, really having a, like the shitty thing about this is not well planned. I would not do this again. I maybe would do every other day. But what was, again, great about it is like, I did it. Like, I got that 300 done. I was in great shape. I did obviously good nutrition and everything with it. But it was about this bigger long-term goal. And I did other ones in the past that led me to feel confident about doing the bodybuilding show. And I would say, like, think of your own. Like, if you're looking for something to mix it up, think of something, whatever it is, training or nutrition, and do it with someone, or at very least tell someone you're doing it. Tell them to make their own challenge. Hey, I want to do this challenge. What do you want to do? I actually even did some challenges against Angelina, and it got me into shape several times. I'm like, hey, let's do a body composition challenge here for this month. And I remember I started seeing her, like, she was getting leaner. I'm like, I got to try harder. So I picked it up. So doing it in an environment will be very helpful, and challenges are great for challenging you. Go figure. But make it relative to you, and make it some sort of a goal you want to attain long term. And so it's just not about doing something for the sake of doing it, but something that's making you practice a skill rather than just doing it for the sake of weight loss. Because there's no quick fixes here. As we mentioned, it's all about this long-term goal. And you know, when it comes to nutrition and training and everything, it's not just a diet. You're not going on the fasting diet or the paleo diet. You're just not going to have success with that. You're going to make your diet. And I think we should just take back the word diet for yourself, not some sort of a purchase thing, not someone else's system. You can understand people's systems and how it might benefit you individually, but make it your diet, because it has to be, as I mentioned, it has to be this personal responsibility, like your personal finance, the things that you know need to go into it, and to make it the best you can. And I'll also say, when it comes to nutrition, it will always be a journey. Don't think that you're going to figure it out and you will always know exactly what to do forever, but you'll know more, way more. And you'll feel way more confident evolving it and gradually improving it continuously over time. That sounds a little demoralizing, but it's not. It's like, I know so much more from when I started, and it gets easier to know more and gets easier to get better at it. And so I now know how to lose weight and gain muscle, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying to make new foods, get more efficient at creating new recipes, and understand it better and better, how it fits in my life, how I'm trying to fit in good, healthy eating while, being at Angelina's parents' Filipino food. Like, I always have to evolve myself, but that's also what life's about. It's always about trying to improve yourself. As you know, that's what this podcast and the whole theme is about. So thank you so much for listening today. Thanks for listening to my rant. If you made it this far, I always appreciate you as a listener. Go check out Becky if you yourself want to know more about how to work, as a woman trying to get over pregnancy or menopause, as that's who she specializes in. I think she's got great information. You can tell she's a very knowledgeable coach and really appreciates people who need to come from that kind of lifestyle, who aren't sure about what they need to focus on, and they've come from overtraining and overworking. So highly recommend you check out her info. I'll leave the info in the show notes. And thanks again. Please do leave a review, share it with someone you know. These are the things that really make a difference for this podcast. But no matter what, I appreciate you as a listener, because it takes you to take the time to listen to me rant away on this stuff. And I always appreciate it, because I'm just trying to help you go after your own ambition. Because no, life is not about the pursuit of happiness, but rather the happiness within your pursuit. And I'll catch you next time.